Imagine discovering at 92 years old that your property has been sold right out from underneath you.
Yeah, a 92-year-old North Texas woman lost her property after somebody forged the deed.
Police found somebody posing as her, provided the title company with a fake driver's license with her name on it, and the buyer didn't know the seller wasn't the rightful owner.
Today we're going to talk about title theft and what you can do to prevent it. Title theft happens when forgers or other title thieves, for lack of better terminology, use fraudulent documents to convey away your property or encumber your property and receive money in return. So that could be by trying to sell the property out from under you, or by trying to refinance or get an equity line in which they can cash money out of the property by trying to impersonate you, the true owner. Keep in mind that property records and information are public records in North Carolina. So anyone can go online and find out who owns any piece of property in the state. So what a lot of these people do that are trying to commit these types of fraud is they will look for pieces of vacant land, which are unencumbered, so there's no mortgage to pay off. Perhaps whoever owns that vacant land lives very far away, so they'll be looking at the tax records and the mailing addresses, and they may see, perfect, a piece of vacant land owned by someone that lives multiple states away and they don't owe any money on it. And they will advertise the property for sale. And once they get a contract on it, they'll impersonate the seller by being a mail-away closing and forging the signature and forging the notary and returning those documents to the closing attorney to be recorded. And then once the proceeds are sent out, this fake seller, this fraudster, runs away with the money. So that's one way. Another way is someone impersonating an owner and trying to take out an equity line of credit against a property, or more likely a cash out refinance against the property. So they may look at a property that has a lot of equity. Again, maybe there's not a mortgage against the property. And they will apply for a loan. They will steal personally identifiable information like social security number, etc., to apply for a loan. And then, of course, they'll want to be a mail-away closing, and they'll insist on having their own notary because they're going to forge your name and forge the notary. And then they will take out the cash out proceeds from that refinance and disappear. So what can you do to prevent these things from happening? Well, one is careful monitoring of the public records, any kind of Google alerts for the listing of your property or whatever it may take. Some counties offer kind of like a title check so that any time your property has any document filed related to it, you'll be notified. So that's one thing you can do. But also in the instance of people scamming and trying to borrow money against your property, pay careful attention to your credit reports. Make sure that there are no inquiries. If there are any inquiries against your credit that you know nothing about, then dig in and don't just assume it was a mistake. If you see new credit lines, dig in and figure out who opened them, how did they open them. So it requires careful monitoring of your records, especially if you are someone who owns vacant land in another state that you don't owe any money on. Now, there's often a question of if title insurance will cover these types of fraudulent actions after you've purchased the property. And what may be the most lawyer answer ever is you've got to look at your title insurance policy to determine what it covers. I will say that title insurance typically covers transactions like that happen prior to your ownership. So it may be a challenge to get a title insurance company to cover something that happened after the date you took title. But let's say you don't have any sort of coverage for this. Even if you do have coverage, what actually happens to make you whole? And that involves legal action. So if someone tries to sell your property or does sell your property using a fraudulent deed, this is tough because unfortunately for the buyer, they didn't receive anything. Someone can only convey what they've got. So the buyer didn't actually receive anything. Now they will be going to their title insurance carrier and asking for coverage to be made whole for the money they spent. But as for seller, then in North Carolina, you would be looking at a quiet title action, asking a judge to issue a declaratory judgment quieting title or clarifying in the public records that the property was not in fact legally sold and that you still own it. And then as far as someone borrowing money in your name, that's probably going to involve criminal action, but then also civil action against whoever took those steps. There you have it. Those are a few things that you need to know in order to protect yourself against potential title theft.